I think it's time to film another video. Just about ready. Gotta get me script. Alright. Now, today, I'm starting a new series. I'm gonna turn this off. It's very loud. Very loud holocron. Cool. Very cool, but very loud. Got that from Disneyland. But I'm starting a new series today, and today is going to be the first episode. We're going to cover Maul, and we're going to talk about why being a Darksider kind of sucks. Because it kind of does suck, in all honesty. It doesn't really work out that well, ever, for the Darksider. Obviously, you watch the films, but also, it's just a very destructive ideology. And yeah, so before we continue, like and subscribe, support me on Patreon. Actually, I don't have a Patreon. Maybe I should get one. Comment down below if you think I should get one. I don't need a Patreon. My channel's not big enough, I don't think, to. And I don't really need the extra money. I'm doing good. Go take the money that you'd get me on Patreon. I can get this stuff. I've got fun stuff to do. I still got to build this. I've got a whole bunch of other sets up there, which I got to build. But go take the money that you give me on Patreon today and buy yourself something nice, or go give it to the poor or something. I don't know. Go do something nice with it. But without further ado, let's begin as to what I'm talking about. Now, as I said, the dark side is a objectively destructive ideology. It's an ideology that is hateful and vain. I folded this so good. Look at that. Look at that. Okay. Look at that. That's almost perfect. That might be the best folding job I've done in my life, honestly. Okay, the second one wasn't very good. Well, it was alright. But the dark side is an ideology rooted in the trauma of the Sith. That's where the dark side comes from. There's these people who have this extreme amount of trauma, and they turn in on their own ego. And they go inward rather than stretching out. The Jedi have this very interesting way of dealing with trauma and dealing with suffering. And they practice sort of almost a
Taoist
ideology. And I'm not going to talk about
Taoism
today, and I probably won't talk about it later unless you want me to research it, because I don't know too much about it. I don't want to speak to other people's religion and culture if I don't know anything about it. But it's interesting, for sure. And it's definitely something which played into the Jedi's view and ideology. And so they let go of everything, including ego. Most crucially, they let go of ego because they've reached such a state of, I guess, peace. Now, does that actually happen for the Jedi? I don't know. That's another conversation entirely. What the Sith do is they go the other way. They feed the ego. They use their ambition, their hunger, their anger, all of these emotions which feed the ego, feed the self, their desire. They need that desire. And they seem to be under the impression that in using that desire, they will attain peace, but they never will. Because in truth, to be happy, happiness comes from within, not without. Like, I can buy as many Lego sets as I want, and I'll be happy with that while I build it, but eventually I'll want more. And the Sith are no different. They will always want more. That's what they don't really see. And that's where, even in winning, Palpatine kind of lost. And you see this with people all the time. And so there's, in our world, but in Star Wars, you obviously see this with these crazy space wizards. And that's when it really gets bad, is when those people kind of take over the galaxy and can shoot lightning out of their hands and twirl their lightsaber around. I'm not going to do that in my room because I don't want to break stuff. Oh my god, I'm burning my hand. But you see how these ideologies form of pain and anguish. And today we're going to be covering Darth Maul. But I'm going to start a series, essentially. There's going to be 4 parts, at least, to this series. If you want me to do more later down the line, I can. But I'd like to switch into the light side after that, talk about my thoughts on that. But we're going to start off with Maul today. Then we're going to do Dooku. Then we're going to do Palpatine. And then we're going to do Vader. And I'm doing those big 4 because I don't feel like there's anybody else throughout Star Wars who comes close to their level of evil, who are also Force users, who are also Sith, right? You could say Ventress, but I would say Ventress kind of walks that line, especially considering that she sort of turns good, especially with the new Tales of the Sith, is it? Tales of Bounty Hunters? Tales of Bounty Hunters. Yes, Tales of Bounty Hunters. Editor, cut that part out a little bit. Work on that. But Asajj Ventress, I don't think, is a very good example. And then there's Kylo Ren too, but I don't think Kylo Ren's a Sith. I gotta be honest. He's something. He's quite powerful. He's something else. Could definitely kill me. But I don't think he's a Sith. Now, I've also, upon my contemplations, figured out that there's sort of two different types of Sith. There's Stage 1 Sith, and these Sith are hungry for power. They want to feed their ego. Both groups do, but these Sith are very visceral in how they want to do it. They want to kill. They're very bloodthirsty. And the reason why Sith want to kill, specifically Maul, is, and I'll touch on this later, but it's actually empathy, I believe. You can't kill people and get a reaction out of that without a twisted form of empathy. And I'll cover that later, but that's phase one. These Sith have less great ambitions, and Maul's the perfect example of this, but I would say Vader's an example of this too. They don't have these great ambitions. They are bloodthirsty. They enjoy killing a lot. And it's not that phase 2 Sith don't enjoy killing as well, but phase 2 Sith, the difference is they've got plans. They've got visions. This is Dooku. This is Palpatine, especially Palpatine. Palpatine's very evil, not because he can't be charming, not because he can't hold himself back, but because he can, and because he waits, and because he plots. Now, this makes him one of the greatest threats to the Jedi, because the thing about a phase 1 Sith is that Sith, the Master's never the phase 1 Sith. The phase 2 Sith is the Master, the phase 1 Sith is often the apprentice, and even Maul, as we're going to talk about in his arc, he switches over in the end, sort of. But, let's get into Maul.
I've been moving in backward directions. During astral projections, I plaster my ass on the wall for attention. I need faster connections, fast as you can.
Very good, very good. But, Sith ideology in general is built upon trauma and pain. And Maul's trauma and pain comes from Palpatine. Palpatine is the oppressor. Palpatine is the one who has given Maul the vast majority of the pain which he has throughout his life. Because if you read the comics, and you read the lore, and you know the lore, you will know that Palpatine tortured Maul. Maul is obviously the son of Mother Talzin, but Maul didn't know that. Maul rather didn't have a relationship with his mother. Palpatine was the father figure, but Palpatine also was the torturer. And so Maul, from a young age, is deeply into that phase 1 version of being a Sith. He's angry. He's so angry at his world. And in a way, he wants to, well, no, not in a way. He wants to kill everything that kind of moves, especially Jedi. He really wants to kill Jedi because that's what he's been trained to kill. But the reason why he wants to kill Jedi, maybe bringing tea into filming a video wasn't a great idea. I don't know. But my calamari and flan fell. Shame. But as I was saying, the reason why he wants to inflict pain on others is because Sith have a desire to find empathy. When you're down in this hole of pain and destruction, and you see this in people too. This is a theory which I have. This isn't fact. I'm not a doctor. I'm an actor, not a doctor. But people want others to feel pain so that they can relate to them. That's what Maul wants, I believe. So that when he can have someone inflict pain, it's that momentary escape. It's that momentary bit of empathy where he's like, oh, you're experiencing the same thing which I'm feeling. So when he kills somebody with his lightsaber, or when he sees Obi-Wan crushed by the death of his master, he feels good. This sick sort of empathy, which gives him more dark side power. And obviously the flip side of that is, of course, everyone has a conscience. I believe everyone has a conscience. Not every person would agree with me. There's a lot of people who don't think everyone has a conscience, but I believe every single person has a conscience. Consistently. Across the board. Now it can be a limited conscience. Am I saying that right? Conscience. Conscience. Okay. Every person has a conscience. It can be a limited conscience. It can be quite a extreme version of a conscience. You can bury that down within you, but the Sith have that too. So Maul is, of course, going to feel guilty at some point. He's going to feel sad subconsciously. He isn't consciously going to feel this, just as he isn't consciously going to desire empathy. He's just going to like watching people suffer. That will give him the escape, but that will also give him pain at the end. And that pain is what he desires, because Sith want to feed their ego. And they've got this twisted cycle of pain brings them more power. They desire more power. They can never have enough power. Their ego calls for power. To have power, they need pain. And so it's this twisted cycle of escape, pain, more power, and more desire for that escape. And through that, they become quite powerful. And this is what Maul has. Now, Maul changes as a character. He has a character arc, because what happens to Maul is obviously he gets his legs severed from his body, which hurts a lot. And he loses his mind, but Savage Opress comes back. Spoiler alert, by the way. Spoiler alert. I suppose I should say spoiler alert. If you haven't seen Clone Wars, please go watch Clone Wars. Go leave this video. Go watch Clone Wars right now. It's so good. It's so good. But Savage Opress saves him, and he's hell-bent on revenge. And this is that feeding of the ego again. He needs that goal, that objective, that satisfaction, because Sith are going after whatever their ego wants. And he's hell-bent on revenge for Obi-Wan Kenobi, but subconsciously he's got these ties to Palpatine, and even consciously he knows that he wants revenge against Palpatine, but subconsciously that is his sole motivator. I believe his motivation for going after Obi-Wan is just him kind of almost trying to hide the bigger fish which he wants to go after, which is, of course, Palpatine. Now, Maul starts to shift into that Phase 2 type of Sith, which I was describing throughout the course of the Clone Wars, to the point where by the time of Clone Wars Season 7, sure, he's killed loads and loads of people and stuff. What he does is he's got Ahsoka in front of him, and Episode 1 Maul would have killed Ahsoka, because he's a Phase 1 Sith. His ego desired that. Sith are ego-driven creatures. They're going after what they want to give them satisfaction, to give them more power, so that they can become more powerful, so that they can feel good, but they never will. Subconsciously, they've got this desire to feel good. Everybody does have a desire to feel good, and the Sith just can't get to that. Now, he goes after Ahsoka, and he stops, and he says, wait, let me talk to you. Let me talk to you for a second. You could join me, and we could defeat Palpatine. He will not kill Ahsoka, or Anakin, if Anakin comes around too. He wants to turn somebody to defeat Palpatine, because that's his goal. But that shows that he's not purely bloodthirsty anymore. He's advanced. He's grown. Now, he is crippled once more by that defeat. And he is, and then he becomes a wanderer. He kind of loses everything by the time we see him in Rebels, when he fights Obi-Wan Kenobi once more. Except that battle is very, very interesting, because Maul is still a Darksider. Maul, in his last words, he's still talking about revenge. He still wants his ego to be avenged. He hasn't let go of his ego. His ego is still dominating his actions. He hasn't found any peace. But he has the recognition to be able to turn to Obi-Wan and say, actually, you really aren't my enemy. You're this old sufferer too. You've suffered in Palpatine's game just as I have. We should go kill him. And Obi-Wan, being the wisdomatic Jedi, kind of just looks at him with pity, right? Because there's this being here who is so devoted to tracking after his ego. So going after what he desires without actually looking inward and being able to let go. And this is something which takes a lot of time and practice to do, which Maul never got to. He never got to a point of peace in his life. It's the tragedy of Maul. Now, I will say a thing which I think really changed Maul too and made Maul a Type 2 Sith is the death of Mother Talzin. In the comics, Maul's mother dies, Mother Talzin, sacrificing herself for her son. And that is a blow to Maul because Maul is once more experiencing pain, but he's also experiencing love too. Because Sith can experience love. Bad people can experience love, and it doesn't instantly redeem them. Sometimes it can make them, when they lose that love, turn more to the dark side. But what happens to Maul is he matures a little bit. He grows up a little bit more. He focuses his anger. And that's what the great Sith do. That's what Palpatine did. That's probably what Bane did. That's what I would argue Dooku did. We'll talk about Dooku in the next video. But Maul is able to focus his pain a little bit more. And so in that sense, he does mature. He does grow up. But he still is bound by his ego. He's still bound to be a Sith. And if he would have let all that go, if he would have let what he wanted go for a second and just took a breath and said, well, actually, maybe I should just go be a farmer and relax or something, he probably would have lived a lot happier life. But Sith can't do that. They have to have that drive, because without that drive, without the ego telling them to go after this, go kill this Jedi, go do this terrible thing, then they don't have purpose. And they have to reconcile with the fact that their whole life's work, especially for Maul, his whole life's work is purposeless. So even when he's cast out by Palpatine, even when he's kind of lost everything, he's unwilling to sacrifice that purpose, because that is what has kept him alive. And that is the same purpose has this sickening relationship with him, where it just twists him and destroys him, but it also saves him. If a Jedi got their legs cut in half like that, they wouldn't survive, because they don't need to. Because they don't have that ego desire. They've separated themselves off from that. But Maul does, and that's what kept him alive. Into Clone Wars, it's what kept him alive when he was captured. It's what kept him alive when he was looking for Obi-Wan Kenobi in the desert. Albeit he wasn't really dying then, but it's what kept him alive throughout all the challenges and all the difficulties of his life. There we go. That's Maul down. We're going to do Dooku next. I'm sorry, I ramble. I do ramble. But, I feel like that's kind of what you get to. I don't mean to be mean. But for my videos, I know that I'm not going to be the biggest channel out there, but I'm just doing this to have fun, And I just enjoy getting to talk to the camera and interact with the community. I like to get to hang out with you guys, spread some of the Star Wars knowledge which I have, learn from you guys. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed. I hope you watched to the end. We do appreciate it here at Star Wars Documented when you watch to the end. If you didn't, that's fine too. And may the Force be with you, always. But what do you think?